Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Mr. KB. It is January 14th, 2016. Sorry for all the eye twitching and everything. I'm going to try to keep this short, but nothing is ever short when I talk about my Niners. As of maybe 4 hours ago, I'm going to say roughly 4 hours ago, the San Francisco 49ers have announced that they have found their new head coach. And if you haven't heard, thank you. I'm going to be your first source of this news, but I'm pretty sure by now, if you're a Niners fan, you've heard. um, Chip Kelly will be the new head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I'm going to be more on the negative tone of this. I'm going to try to keep a lot of speculation and kind of just go with what I know because I don't follow the Eagles per se, but I do know of not necessarily all of Chip Kelly's history, but what led to him becoming an NFL head coach and then what led kind of to his demise. So Chip Kelly comes into a team that, like his previous team, had a losing record. Prior to Chip Kelly showing up at Philly, the Eagles had finished 4-12. When he took over the team reversed their fortune and made it 10-6, actually making it to the playoffs their first year. Second year in Philly, he finished an identical 10-6, but they didn't make the playoffs. The NFL was really strong that year. I believe the Cowboys might have finished ahead of them in the standings for the NFC East that year. Um, and then this year, his last year in Philly, he finished 6-9. Didn't even get to coach his last game because they fired his ass after the end of week 15 or week 16. Sorry, going leading into week 17. Now he inherits a similar situation where he inherited in Philly. The Niners coming off of 5-11, I believe was their 5-11, down from 8-8 previous year, which was Jim Harbaugh's last year. But Jim Harbaugh also had to inherit a similar team, and we're going to compare the coaches here, where they came off a losing season. I believe the season before Harbaugh was there, and again, I don't really have the stats in front of me. I believe the Niners had finished 7-9 or 6-10. I can't remember specifically, but I know it was within that range. First year's head coach Jim Harbaugh came in 13-3. Pretty much revitalized Alex Smith's career at that point because he's been fairly solid ever since. Even now in Philly, he's going to start next week. Alex Smith is for the Kansas City Chiefs in a playoff game. Following year, Harbaugh coached them to 11-4-1. That was Alex Smith's last year as he got injured, and I believe the second game at Candlestick Park against the Rams, that game ended up finishing tied, I believe, 20-20 or some low-scoring game. That year they finished 11-4-1. Did actually make the playoffs that year as well, and that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl against his brother and the Ravens. That was the coming out party for Kaepernick. And then the following season, they finished 12-4, again making it to the NFC title game, which was back-to-back NFC title games. And this time they actually lost to the Seahawks in that game, which I think at that point kind of began the already declining Kaepernick, in my opinion. And then his last year, which was last season prior to Tom Sula, 2 seasons ago, however you want to call it, he finished 8-8. Now, even at his worst, he was allowed to finish the season and finish 8-8. Coach Harbaugh. Chip Kelly wasn't as much. Now, the situations are going to be vastly different for Chip Kelly this time around compared to what his worst season was. He will have no real say over personnel. All of that control, all of that power still remains with Trent Baalke and his staff. And Chip Kelly will merely go coach in San Francisco. Now, here's the hesitation that I have of praising this as a great hire. He comes with a losing record. He comes from a time where he got fired before the last week of the NFL season, and he comes here with a losing record. In my opinion, it got so bad in Philly with him that they were like, no, F this, you're out, which to me is a little bit worse than Jim Tom Sula. who also had a losing record. Now, is he a better coach than Tom Sula? He has more experience, more head coaching experience than Coach Tom Sula. I will give him that. And if you want to compare all the seasons as head coach, even taking Coach Tom Sula's experience with the NFL Europe, then yes, he has more experience. He's presumably, assumably, and hypothetically a better coach. We really won't know because Coach Tom Sula inherited a sinking boat and was asked to revive the boat and patch it up as fast as he could, which, yeah. But anyways, here are a couple things that I do know of Chip Kelly that, again, I don't praise, and some of this could actually change because he doesn't have that control. One, he's not a player's coach. Players, specifically superstar players, talking about Deshaun Jackson and what's this dude's name? The running back for the Bengals. I'm gonna look him up really quick. Sorry, I should have had this up already. If you kind of Google Chip Kelly, all these little things pop up, and I'm gonna look it up now. LaShawn McCoy. Were superstars, rightfully so, I believe. LaShawn McCoy, one of the best pure speed edge running backs that we've seen in recent history. Maybe up there with Darian Sproles. I know Sproles doesn't get enough love, but he is a very nice edge running back. Deshaun Jackson, what did I call him? Anyways, Deshaun Jackson currently playing, or maybe not even playing anymore, or will not play with the Washington Redskins. One of the best pure talented speed receivers, again, we have seen in time. Not a powerful guy, but he's super, super quick. Great hands, great route runner. Has trouble finishing plays, as we saw in the Redskins game, if you guys witnessed that. And both of those players got shipped out with Chip Kelly there. Chip Kelly did do something very well in Nick Foles. He was able to coach him up and make Nick Foles respectable. What does he wind up doing? He winds up shipping him out as well and trading him for Sam Bradford. And here's where I think there's going to be some conflict. Trent Baalke and Ed York shipped out Coach Harbaugh because I'm going to assume, now this is all assumption, this is the vibe that I'm getting just seeing this as a fan and hearing news from media outlets, was that Jim Harbaugh, with the success that he had, felt that he deserved to get some say over personnel, got to, I guess, more power. He wanted more control over the team and the team that he coached. And that's understandable. Now, Chip Kelly was granted that power pretty much when he signed on to the Eagles from Oregon. What if, now hypothetically, what if Chip Kelly does that 6-game turnaround that he had in Philly with the Niners? So we're going from 5-11 and reversing that to 11-5. That might be good enough to make it to the playoffs. Now, depending on the talent they have on that roster at the time, with not missing key injuries, and I guess how well they mend over or meld together over the course of a season, when is Chip Kelly going to revert back to his habits of saying, I'm very, very smart, give me control? And when does that start causing issues? We saw what happens when issues get caused in that dynamic managing ownership circle that is the San Francisco 49ers. Jim Harbaugh, as crazy and as tough as he is, was unable to deal with it, and they finished 8-8. That's how good he actually was. So all the crap that was around him, Coach Harbaugh was able to coach that team to 8-8. So when that winds up happening, if it winds up happening with Chip Kelly, what's going to happen? Are we going to have one good season and then go back to another losing season because all of a sudden this man thinks, well, maybe the Eagles were a fluke. Maybe I do have that talent. Maybe I can, get the personnel. And if I had my people, we would be 13-3 or 14-2 and blah, 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 blah. We don't know. And that's part of the reason why well, one of the reasons why I don't think this is a good hire for that organization. There needs to be a lot of changes, not only in Chip Kelly's personality, but in the, I'm gonna say it, eagle, bloated ego personalities of Trent Baalke and Yet York. I think both of them have big heads, thinking that they're smarter than they actually are. Secondly, there have been talks and all this stuff that Chip Kelly is a guy that comes in with a system in mind. He has a system, which is why he thought he was so smart that he can just plug in any player into a system. That's why he shipped out Deshaun Jackson. That's why he shipped out McCoy. That's why he shipped out Nick Foles. He thought he can win with essentially scrubs with Mark Sanchez and Sam Bradford, who Tony Kornheiser, one of my favorite, I guess, radio personalities slash TV personalities, called a human ace bandage or bandage. It didn't work. This was his worst season. So if he has a system in play that he wants to bring in, rumor is they're going to keep Colin Kaepernick, or they might keep Colin Kaepernick because that was something that apparently Chip Kelly thought would work well for him. Now here comes another problem. This is all personal bias here. I don't think that Kaepernick can succeed in a system that's already implemented with him in mind. He had one good season, and that's because he succeeded from what I'm going to call the Michael Vick effect. People hadn't seen a quarterback like Kaepernick probably since Michael Vick. Russell Wilson doesn't necessarily count, I don't believe. But once Kaepernick got figured out, he was unable to adapt. He cannot read defenses. He cannot progress. He cannot really do anything that a quarterback needs to do. And I don't think a system is going to alleviate that. I really don't. Now, can Kaepernick have success somewhere? I believe he can. But it's not going to be in San Francisco. He needs special type coaching that I don't think even Chip Kelly will bring. Harbaugh tried and failed with Kaepernick as far as trying to produce an elite quarterback. He just couldn't do it. And he got replaced, and the offense was actually better with Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert is not quite as athletic as Kaepernick, but is athletic. He has good arms. He can actually read defenses, and he does do progressions. Maybe he comes out of his progressions a little bit too quick at times, going for the easy 3 to 5 yard throws instead of the 30-yard bombs that are open at times. But at least he progresses. He tries to find something. Maybe he panics too quick, and I'm going to give Gabbert the edge. I would rather see them give up on Kaepernick, save that cap space, and fill in gaps where they need them. Defensive line, offensive line, especially maybe get in a solid cover corner, and then just draft really, really smart. So that's going to be the thing, is how is he going to affect the personnel that was already thought to be on their way out? And with everything coming in and everything, and people hearing stuff about Chip Kelly, one, that he changes people's diets or the players' diets, he puts them on smoothies and makes them like vegan and vegetarian, tries to make them eat healthier. Some players might like it to have, I guess, a life coach as well as a player coach, and some are not. As Anquan Bolden, if he is a top option for us to have a possession receiver available to come back, will he come back knowing that Chip Kelly has that type of persona where he wants to not only coach you during your playing, but he also wants to coach you during your life? Like, he wants to determine your diet. He wants to do a bunch of things. Now, forget Anquan Bolden for a minute. What about other players who are destined to be free agents that San Francisco can actually use? I'm going to just throw out a name. I don't know if he's restricted or not. B.J. Raji, the DT for the Green Bay Packers. I think the Niners can use him up front. They need somebody like that to apply pressure to the quarterback, to bowl over offensive line so the linebackers can come in behind him. You saw that work to great effect against Washington in the playoff game last week. How will that affect our ability going forward to attract free agents or even to retain the players once they become free agents? If Kelly is not that type of coach, we don't know. And I guess just all in all is I don't see No, I'm not trying to say he's not a good coach. I think he could have been one of the greatest college coaches to ever coach that game. But there's a difference when you're trying to when you are coaching kids and when you're coaching men who this is their career. Can he gain the respect of people, his players, by treating them like they're college kids? Now, people say that Pete Carroll does the same thing, but you don't see that on the field. You don't see that. He tries to be one of the guys. He I don't like the guy personally, but I see his coaching mentality, and it looks like he coaches in a way where he's one of the guys, but he's not. There's still a level of respect that I believe he has for the players and the players have for him, and it works. Seattle was supposed to bomb this year. I thought they were going to bomb, and they didn't bomb. And yeah, they escaped by the skin of their teeth against the Vikings, and if the guy doesn't shank, the field goal left, they're out. But the point is, they were in the playoffs, and this is, I believe, the third year in a row they're in the playoffs. Coming off back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, even though they lost one, who cares? They went to the Super Bowl twice and won one. So yeah, how was that going to affect everybody? And honestly, this is the NFC West. This is not the NFC East. Chip Kelly coached average in a weak division. The NFC East, besides maybe the AFC South, is the worst division in football. By far the worst. It's not even competitive most seasons. Either one team is very dominant, or one of them, just like this season, they all suck and one just sucks less than the other. The Redskins happen to suck less than the other. But it wasn't even competitive. And he finished with less victories than... I don't know. That's the other thing. Like, he's going to have to coach against Pete Carroll. He's going to have to coach against Bruce Arians. He's going to have to coach against... Is it Jeff Fisher that's with the Rams now? These are all tough coaches coaching tough teams. Seattle is not going to go away next season. They're going to be tough again. Arizona is young, and they have veteran leadership. That team is going to be hungry, especially if they don't make it to the Super Bowl. They're going to come back hungrier next year. They're going to be tough. The Rams are tough. A young, hungry team full of high-energy players. So the NFC West is going to be super tough. And you're going to need to win at least 5 of those games to make it to the playoffs coming out of the West. At least 5. You got to set yourself forward because you don't know who else you can beat. But he wasn't really able to dominate the NFC East when the NFC East is pretty much weak and has been weak maybe for the last 7 years. So that's just... Those are the reasons why I don't think it's necessarily a good hire. Now, I'm not going to say it's a bad hire. It's just not the hire that I think the Niners needed. They needed to be more progressive. They needed not to go with a guy coming off a failing year. Coming from a guy who just had a failing year. Now, if Chip Kelly had gone 10-6 this year, they would have been in the playoffs. If they had lost against the Seahawks, similar to how the Redskins then are lost against whoever it is they might have been playing at 10-6. Doesn't matter. If he would have gone 10-6, 10-6, 10-6 with 2 playoff appearances because he missed it his second season there, and then lost both first rounds, then okay. And then the Eagles kind of got tired of it, and we're like, well, you haven't really produced much in this time, and yeah, you've had 30 wins or whatever, but we haven't gone past the first round. Now, the Eagles had got tired of that and say, hey, you're going to be fired. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. But you saw from a guy who made it to the playoffs, didn't make it to the playoffs, and then got fired before he could even finish the season, and having a losing record. It wasn't even like close. He had a losing record. And some of those games were just badly coached. He cannot adapt. He believes so much in his system that he can adapt. And that's something that does not need to come back to San Francisco, because if there's one thing that San Francisco has not been able to do, even with Coach Harbaugh, is that they are unable to succeed within this system and have that work all game. They haven't been able to adapt. Part of that problem, I think, to me, is the quarterback. Now, can they do it with Blaine Gabbert? I'm not completely sure. I have more confidence in him than I do Kaepernick. But with Kaepernick there, if he winds up staying, Kaepernick is not able to adapt. So that means that if Chip Kelly has a system that he thinks will work well for Kaepernick, and Kaepernick is not able to succeed in that system, what happens? The team goes back to losing again. So we don't need a coach that is unable to adapt, that has a system that he believes works, and then if it doesn't work, they lose. And not only that, is Kaepernick is not the person for a system. Because if you give him a system and he fails, there's no recovery. He's not going to adapt. He's going to keep going with that system. We've seen it. We saw it the first 8 games he played with Coach Tomsula. We saw it the last 2 years that Jim Harbaugh coached him after his Super Bowl run. That he fails. He fails because he is unable to adapt. So if you have a coach and a player who are unable to adapt to the situation that's currently at hand, you're going to lose games by halftime. And that's something that I don't want to see next season. So, I mean, it is what it is. And like I said in my last video, when we're talking about Yeti Ork and what he said in his press conference, I can be blowing a lot of smoke right now, and I can be completely wrong. And for the success of the Niners, I hope that I am completely wrong. Because winning fixes everything. I can be right here and be like, Chip Kelly is the worst coach ever, and just be like spewing hate and all this other stuff. Hey, but if he wins, we can push this video aside. And if we win, we win. And if Chip Kelly can coach this team to winning, then that solves all of my worries. But currently, it's not what I wanted. It's not what I think the Niners needed. But I guess we'll see what's up. So that was 22 minutes. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, any comments, you want to keep the discussions going, let's do it. I know the football season's not over yet, but I'm already waiting for the 2016 season to start in September, because the LA Rams moved to LA, or moved back to LA. They're in the NFC West, same as the Niners. I live in SoCal. Guess what I hope to catch next season? That's right, the Niners when they come to LA, baby. I'm so hyped. Ah! But yeah, thank you guys for watching so much. I appreciate every view that I get. Thank you guys for just hearing me rant and spew stuff. And I do have some other stuff planned after the football season is over. I might come back and discuss a couple more things, most likely free agent stuff, draft stuff, maybe even a Super Bowl pick, depending on who makes it and who I would be going for. As far as talking about the games, I don't really care about any of the teams there. I just watch football because I love football. And yeah, after the football season's over, I might just go back to video game stuff, accessories, headsets, and games. And I do have something in the works that will be most likely, I guess I'm gonna say work related or real life related, that I want to incorporate into my channel, which is the beauty of having your own channel. You don't have to follow any one thing. But we'll see how that goes, and hopefully it goes fairly well, if not for the youngins who want a job or think they might want a job in the video game industry. But yeah, those are the plans. But thank you guys again. I'm ranting and raving and talking endlessly. Thank you guys again so much. This is Mr. KB, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.